MMOs are a bit of a dying breed right now in the gaming space. They usually reveal to exciting fanfare and hype from the audience with a promising future, only to die a few months later due to poor monetization and bad developer handling of gameplay loops and balancing. But can a new developer step into the foray and bring light into the space where others have failed? Well, it seems that Kuro Games, the developer behind Wuthering Waves and Punishing Grey Raven, plans to do so, with their recently revealed MMO currently in development, codenamed Project Nami. Recently, it was revealed that the developer is kicking into high gear, with Kuro posting multiple front-end and back-end positions for the game. But is now really the right time to take a crack at this genre? Is this going to be a new success or a monumental flop? Well, let's talk about it. Failed MMOs are a dime a dozen these days, with very few able to keep long-term success, like titles like World of Warcraft or Final Fantasy XIV. I think this is in large part due to many of the newer MMOs coming from Eastern markets. While there are outliers like BDO, I think as far as Western players are concerned, many of them haven't stuck. Developers there have a different design philosophy when it comes to monetization. While most Western players are fine with microtransactions for cosmetics, they generally don't like it when it's connected to power. And for many Eastern MMOs, Korean in particular, selling power is the norm. Take Lost Ark, for example. An amazing game on launch, an isometric style ARPG with some well-choreographed boss fights and mechanics that quickly lose their luster for the grinding you need to progress. On top of that, to keep up as a low spender or free-to-play player, you basically need to play the game like a job, rolling multiple characters and pooling resources just to keep up with the higher tier gear. And after spending all of those hours, all of that work becomes moot in the next update with the inclusion of another set of higher tier gear, making all of the previous grinding effectively worthless because you can get to the new gear score that much easier. Want to avoid all of this? Spend a few $100s for the RNG-based gear progression system and save yourself hours of heartache. This model doesn't resonate well with Western players, and even for those who are still familiar with Eastern style games, it keeps it hard-locked to a more niche audience. Now, if you'd asked me 6 months ago if I thought that Kuro Games making an MMO was a good idea, I would have said no. MMOs are extremely and notoriously expensive to develop. They're a massive undertaking for any developer to do. It takes up a lot of teams, a lot of resources, and a lot of money to be able to get a successful MMO off the ground. And 6 months ago, we had a pretty close comparison of a market contender in Blue Protocol. It's an anime-styled MMO that released early to Japan, and it was one that had every disenfranchised Genshin player, a gacha gamer in general, anime game fan, and MMO audiences interested in playing that game. It released early to Japan, only for it to flop entirely. It was another case of mismanagement and poor monetization, and the game was cooked. That was until Tencent stepped in. Now, you may have recently heard the news about Blue Protocol was being revived under a different game called Blue Protocol Star Resonance. Originally, Tencent was contracted to work on the global release version of Blue Protocol, particularly for mobile. And after it bombed in Japan, Tencent renegotiated the rights to the game and were basically able to redesign the game from the ground up, but keeping the IP and the style and assets already created. They took many of the older, grindier systems, like the ridiculous RNG farming of plants in the open world, and made them into a more streamlined model with better monetization. In all of the early reporting of this game, I've heard nothing but amazing things that Tencent basically took the decent foundation that was laid by the Blue Protocol devs and turned it into the MMO that many of us dreamed of. And now that game is getting closer to release, soon we'll know for sure if that's exactly the case, but the future looks promising. A story like that comes as a bit of a reassurance in this situation, because last year, Tencent took a 51% stake ownership in Kuro Games. They're gonna want to return on their investment. And while every other Western developer is busy bleeding money and trading their player bases horribly, it seems like a lot of these Eastern developers are actually interested in appealing to the customer and making what they want. Kuro Games and Tencent are also Chinese-based companies and don't tend to fall into the same predatory monetization models that a lot of the Korean MMOs do that don't generally connect with Western audiences. Now, I'm not trying to say that Chinese games always monetize their games well, but I think it has a better track record given the recent successes of gacha games in the Western markets. Kuro Games has built an amazing name for itself as a developer that can build amazing combat on all platforms. While PGR wasn't quite for everybody with its match 3 orb skill system, no one denies that the fast-paced look and feel of that game is second to none, especially in the mobile market. Kuro then took that foundation of combat and then applied it to an open world setting with Wuthering Waves. While the combat took a different direction due to the nature of the open world versus the arena-based combat in PGR, the application was, in my opinion, flawless and provided a quality combat experience even on mobile. I know people like to cringe about people playing Wuthering Waves on mobile, but I'll be honest, I do it pretty regularly. Kuro's also been able to really revamp the open world exploration with its 2.0 release of Wuthering Waves. If you played Wuthering Waves 1.0 and compared it to the open world exploration, it is a night and day experience. Now with the inclusion of their flight and sailing, along with a faster, more fluid open world traversal, you can tell they've got the dust off and they've brought something really special. Now as a side note, Kuro, if you happen to be watching this video, please bring the wings into Jinzhou. Exploring the 1.0 region sucks. I've been trying to go back and do some of the things that I missed, and it's hard. It's hard to stay there. Also the music, we need to revamp the music too. Rinasita's soundtrack is an absolute banger, and compared to 1.0, it just sweeps, and it's too much of a contrast here. Can we get a little bit of a refresher? Say what you want about the narrative, but I think since 2.0, it's been fantastic. 1.0 was fine, especially from a gacha and mobile standard, but 2.0 has been a huge increase in quality. If Kuro Games is able to take that foundation and apply that to an MMO, I think they could have a real winner on their hands. Hell, I even wanted more dungeon and co-op content in Wuthering Waves with raid mechanics. And I'm still futilely holding on to the idea that maybe we can get something, but with Project Nami now on the horizon, I probably won't hold my breath. So will a Kuro Games MMO work? Well, I think they've got a proven track record of quality content when it comes to their previous games that they've developed, and so I think they've got a really good chance. But I think only if they don't fully apply the gacha system of monetization to the game. Stamina systems and weapon banners in MMOs are generally not received well, and I think will be a huge barrier to an MMO audience. I think if Kuro wants to target the same kind of success with its MMO, I think it needs to take the Star Resonance route first. Now, I didn't mention this earlier, but Star Resonance is another free-to-play game. But it's not limiting the gameplay to its monetization. No, the monetization comes in the form of cosmetics, in the area that MMO players really want to spend on their time. So I think Kuro Games needs to do the same thing and focus on the core gameplay loop first. Make sure that's fun. Keep players coming back before implementing some of the monetization. So many games today feel like slot machines that have a game built around them, but they need to feel like a game first with monetization built around it second. For many MMO players, the true endgame always has been and always will be cosmetics and fashion. If you have a solid game that keeps players engaged, they will spend money on the cosmetics. You can only spend so much time staring at the same character before you want a little variety spiced in there. Kuro Games has proven itself multiple times over that it has the ability to make great games with solid combat and a great open world exploration. I think if they can get the monetization right, I think Kuro really could have a winner on their hands. The only factor here is games take a long time to develop, and this is just getting off the ground. So we have no idea what kind of market will be, 4 or 5 years down the line when this game is more than likely to actually release. But at least at this stage, knowing what the developer has created previously, I'm hopefully optimistic. So do you think Kuro Games actually has a chance to release something good? Let me know what you think in the comments down below. Like I said, I'm personally optimistic, but I'm open to other thoughts here. Are you a Kuro fan like me, or are you a Genshin stan that just hates anything that they pump out? I'd be curious. Let me know in the comments down below. But that's going to be it for this one, everyone. Thank you so much for watching. See you next time.